ivy, and it turned what was just basically a nondescript landscape into just a really colorful thing that people always had to stop and ask what they were. But anyway, the problem of roots, too many roots to plant through, and the problem of too much shade, you just solve it with the type of plants that you put in there. And like I say, this technique of just digging down a little bit and just putting the bottom of the pot maybe 2 inches into the ground. You'd be amazed how quickly those roots will go through and into the ground, and then you just basically treat them like something in flower bed. Yes, ma'am?
Would Lorokia work well with that sinking of pot?
Yes, it'll work just fine. It'll work just fine. And I know botanically the Latin pronunciation is liriope. My grandfather, my horticulture teacher, both said liriope, and that's what I always say, but realize there are a bunch of different ones. If you want a variegated one, you want to choose this one they call Aztec grass. It's actually an Ophiopogon rather than a liriope, but it's beautiful in pots in the shade. You can plant the big blue, which is a very dense form, or you can plant what they call the giant, and that will get up waist high, and if you put it in a pot, you can even bring it up higher than that, and it'll do absolutely beautifully for you. So, shady areas and areas with hard soil, if you want plants, that's what you do. If you want something other than plants, this stuff, decayed granite or decomposed granite, this stuff is extremely versatile, and once again I'll use that to move from just areas in the shade to areas in the yard where you can't get grass to grow for other reasons. This makes one of the best pathway materials. That's what this pathway right through here is made of, and it's dense enough to stop most weeds. It is not muddy. You walk on it, you don't get mud on your feet. It makes a very nice surface. It's actually, you know, when they make running tracks and things, this is one of the things they use because it's so much easier on your joints and also on your shins than concrete is. But it is the kind of thing that you would want to use if you have a yard and you have big dogs. Or really little dogs. Amazing what they can do to grass. But you know, your dogs, if you've got a fence along the back, especially if it's an open fence, the dog runs back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Pretty soon you got this nice area of bare dirt back there. And you'll usually see that when the dog flies out the back door and heads for the back fence, he or she follows the same path almost every time. And pretty soon, once again, you get a path worn in the yard. Create a walkway with this. Do the same thing we did out here. Put a couple little pieces of edging in. It doesn't have to be straight. You know, you can vary it at least slightly and the dog will stay on it. By the way, this is good for kids too if they have a certain path that they run through your backyard. But where the grass has been worn down and you don't want to put in, you know, a permanent sidewalk. That's the other thing too about decayed granite, is you decide to change things, just loosen it up with a grubbing hoe or something like that. You can plant right through it, you can dig some of it out and put your grass back in that area. If your situation changes, or maybe you move into a house where they had the granite, now you don't have that same problem. But decayed granite, decomposed granite, whatever name you want to apply to it, is just a real solution to a lot of different problems. And if you have kids' play equipment out there, if they're a little bit bigger ones that don't hit the ground quite as often, this is one of the greatest things that you can put under a swing set or something like that. It's a great thing if you have an area that you want to put a bench or a table, or if it's an area that you want to go out and sit and things like that, and you have Bermuda grass or something and you don't want the chiggers and all that problem, create yourself a nice sitting area with something like this. It's just a great ground cover where you're not using plants. It lets the moisture go right through it, so you're not screwing up your tree roots, and you're not going to have a muddy spot. I mean, I love decayed granite. I don't think I'll ever put down, if we had the choice and had the locations to find it, we probably would have used it other than pea gravel through a lot of the nursery. But it's a great thing to use to cut down on mud problems in the yard. Nancy?
Are there different grades of it? What grade do you use for a walkway like this?
I don't know that there are officially grades of it, but there is definitely a difference in the particle size. And wherever possible, I'd go out and look at the pile and be sure that it's what you're looking for. Different places, and all this stuff comes out of the Fredericksburg area. That's where virtually all the decayed granite comes from. When we did our parking lot, we had a guy just bring it in 18-wheelers. Took about 6 18-wheelers to do this whole parking lot, as a matter of fact. Doesn't take as much as you think, because you can put the base material underneath, pack that, and then put your decayed granite on top of it. But when you put it out, it'll seem loose, but literally in just a few days it packs very, very hard, very easy to walk on. Yes, sir.
Bob, do you have to do that for your walkways also? Better to put a base underneath it and then
No, I just put, that's all we did on this one. We just raked the pea gravel up.
like 2 or 3 inches deep, or
2 or 3 inches deep is plenty in most cases.
Where do you get it?
You can get it, I buy it from Stone and Soil Depot.
Is that on 281?
There's one on 281, there's one on I-10. You can get it at Fertile Garden Supply. I'm sure you can get it at Keller Material.
Is that over on,
It's on 1604 out by Brown Road.
okay, so,
I'm sure you can find it at Gardenville. I'm sure you can find it at Keller
Gardenville.
over on South Loop 410.
the other one I was going to ask about, they have the ground glass out there at Gardensville also, is that?
There's, and I don't know how they take the sharp edges off of it. I think they tumble it. The problem that I have with their ground glass is that it never really gets hard. I mean, you're slogging through it. It's always gonna, it's just harder to walk on, and it gets spread around a whole lot more.
Mixture, possibly the two together? But,
I've never tried that.
so you get a little color in it, because it's usually different colored glasses and stuff. So you can,
Yeah, it's attractive. You can. I've never tried that. It'd be interesting to experiment with. But yeah, it's amazing all the different things that you can make a material out of. And again, what a great way to recycle glass if you're not going to melt it down and use it again. Like I say, I don't know how they take the sharp edges off, but if you're ever out there, you just grab it by the handful and there's nothing abrasive to it at all. But and it's pretty, but I don't think it'll ever set up as hard, you know, as the decayed granite does. Yes.
On that granite, decayed granite, you can put like a half a sack of Portland cement in it.
Oh, sure. You're going to do what they call stabilizing it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit heavier duty than just.
Absolutely. If you want to really keep it in place. Of course, that cuts down a little bit on the permeability.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking half a sack for a 50-foot driveway.
Oh, yeah. And remember, what he's talking about is cement. It's not concrete. Cement is the powdered material that is mixed with sand and gravel to make concrete.
Just water it a little bit.
Yeah. This material, and in fact, they do it with base material. If you want to really hold it in place, and you could certainly do the same thing with your decayed granite. Just a very small amount of Portland cement is what it's sold at, $6 a bag. And it goes a long way. Just mix it up, put it in place, and when it gets moist, it will stay there. That's a great idea. Yes?
Can you use that over pea gravel in a walkway, or do you need to get rid of some of that pea gravel?
I would thin the pea gravel down, because pea gravel's always going to move around on you. And so I would find something else somewhere else. And that's what we did when we did this little walkway. You might remember there was used to be a board walkway here that was coming apart, and then part of it was pea gravel. It was hard to walk in, so we just threw away the board, shovel the pea gravel to either side, put the decayed granite down, and been very, very trouble-free ever since. Yes, ma'am.
I used cut grass clippings to make I did put plastic down over it there.
And again, mulches of any sort. And again, if you've got younger kids that tend to hit the ground frequently, you know, some of the mulches are one of the best things you can put down under play equipment in different areas. It's just, I know that one of the companies, and I can't remember which one, sells something they call kiddie cushion that, you know, the kids can play on, and if they do hit the ground fairly frequently, it's rare that you will ever get any serious injuries, and really no injuries at all. But again, it's a great thing to do with an area that's too shady. If you don't want to go to plants, you don't want to go to the decayed granite, just get the mulch. Put the mulch down, and it makes a very, very effective way to cover the soil and gets rid of the problem of mud, and yet it's real easy to walk on. And if you want a harder surface, you can always put some stepping stones through there so you've got something to walk on, and you keep your feet even cleaner when you do that. Some people, you know, will want to put down a stepping stone walkway, but then they have problems with grass coming up through it and all. And this can be for paved stones, can be for stepping stones, for just about anything else, and just kind of moving into another subject. But you can use things like your mints, or you can use things like even the dwarf monkey grass. But the secret, if you're ever going to put this material in between stones or paving bricks or anything like that, what you really need to do is the soil that you filled in around the rocks, leave it down about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. Because if you fill it all the way to the top and plant something, or have your soil level all the way to the top and you walk on it, you will wear it off and